Nicely done.
Hey guys, welcome to Nerd Herd Live. We are back for our third episode.
Yeah.
Fourth episode.
Fourth episode.
Man, we're good at this.
We're so good at this.
We are pros.
Tonight,
we're good at this.
We are pros.
Tonight, there's some major lag. Hold on, wait. Where's that coming from?
You have a
Is that from you? Because you're not wearing
That's from
headphones?
me. Yep. Sorry. We are pros. We had to be right. That was great.
Oh.
One for the blooper reel.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah, no, I had the code open from embedding it into the site. All good. Tonight we are talking about TV shows that have just recently come out or are currently airing. Anything that's basically airing in the month of August. So we're going to be talking about She-Hulk, Sandman, House of Dragon, Westworld. If anyone saw What We Do in the Shadows last night, I know Robert did. It was one of the most brilliant episodes of like comedy television pretty much ever. I guess that was actually Tuesday night that came out, but it was on Hulu yesterday, so that's where I saw it. But to get started, let's go around, introduce everybody just in case people are tuning in for the first time. Robert, you're up first.
Hey guys, Robert with 3F by Space.
That's a very detailed intro.
Oh yeah,
It is.
Boom.
Boom.
I guess, am I next?
You're next.
Sure.
All right. I am Matt Rodriguez. I am the owner and chief editor of shakefire.net. Take it away, Jen.
I am Jen Steele. I'm a senior writer at fanbolt.com.
And I'm fanbolt.com.
Yes, it's great.
I'm Emma Loggins.
We are just firing on all cylinders tonight.
We are.
We
were all
gone for the coffee drink.
We were all talking about how tired we were earlier, so bear with us. Some of us have been really binging through television this last week, trying to be able to see as much as we could to be able to talk about everything this week. It's been a lot of really good television this month, which has been great because there hasn't been a lot in the theaters. And there's not a ton in the theaters next month either, so it'll be great that we'll have Lord of the Rings and Andor next month to look forward to, but we'll talk about that later. So let's
Jen is happy.
Jen is very happy for Andor.
Jen is going to go see Rogue One in IMAX on Monday. Okay.
Nice.
Jen is excited.
Fair.
So which show do we want to start with, you guys? You want to start with She-Hulk?
We can do that. I got the shirt.
Oh,
you're
that's so cute.
I'm literally in my pajamas right now, so.
Spoiler warning for our viewers. If you haven't seen today's episode, we are going to talk about it. So if you're watching on the archive or watching live, be warned.
There's not a ton of spoilers with She-Hulk.
Not really, yeah.
There's one cool thing we're going to talk about that was more of an Easter egg, and it's not really a spoiler, but we can
There's
kind
a
of
lot of cool things. There's a lot of Easter eggs.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in anything.
There's a lot of details in these episodes.
Yeah. You've got to watch them multiple times to really kind of hone in on them. But in case people have not watched She-Hulk, let me pull up our official description here. It is a television series that is streaming on Disney+. It is the 8th TV series in the MCU, of course, produced by Marvel. Follows Jennifer Walters, a lawyer specializing in cases involving superhumans, who also becomes a green superhero She-Hulk. So,
yay.
Short description of it. I think everyone here was pretty skeptical of this show, like coming into it. We were all kind of like, meh. Like the trailer wasn't like overly exciting.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was going to be super lighthearted and not necessarily kind of move us forward in this phase 5 of things, which I think we've all been really wanting to like just,
this whole phase in general has just been very mediocre. Like it's still good. It's still entertaining, but it hasn't hit those highs yet. I mean, there have been some good series and stuff, but also some just like, it's good. It's fine. And like, of course, us, we got to watch it all. So
And it's a buildup, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen it before that there's always that middle period between the phases when you're getting ready to prepare for the big bad or the big storyline or start tying things together. And it can feel very slow. And this phase has definitely felt that way. And I think what's fun though is as we do see some of the movies come out that are starting to push things along, some of the things happening in these shows are starting to pay off. And that's kind of nice to see. So yeah, I mean, I watching this week's She-Hulk, it reminded me how long it's been since I've watched the original Hulk movie and how long that's actually been. Because at first I completely forgot who Abomination was.
I went to the Wikipedia page. I had to look it up.
Tim Roth.
So yeah. I had no
and that's
clue.
a huge callback.
Huge callback and original actor too. So
yeah. Which makes the whole, there's a line in this week's episode where like she when she was talking to Bruce on the phone and being like, hey, I'm gonna be taking this case because if she takes the case to represent Abomination, and like that's how they cross paths. And she's like, at first she thinks, oh my god, you know, this is a conflict of interest and I can't take the case because her and Bruce. And so she calls him to basically explain everything, and he delivers the great line. It's like, oh, I'm a totally different person now, which is just, I think that's my favorite moment, you know, making fun of the fact that Ed Norton was the Hulk in the original,
it's a good point,
the Incredible Hulk film against Abomination. So
to be fair, I didn't catch that originally.
Brilliant. I didn't either.
Yeah.
I did. I thought it was so hilarious.
Like that is an awesome call out.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Ben, on the sort of approach on the fourth wall breaking that's been happening in the first two episodes? Because I know there's been a lot of people comparing it to Deadpool, and you know there's been opinions on both sides. But I'd be interested to see what you guys think on that.
I am not a huge fan of movies and TV shows that do that unless they're doing it in like a mockumentary style way. Like if it's being done like that, again, What We Do in the Shadows, brilliant. Office, Parks and Rec, any sort of show like that, I think would be fine to do that sort of thing with. It feels a little weird.
I don't know if I would count that as breaking the fourth wall, though. Is that?
It's not really, but like, I mean, just talking to the camera, like, I don't know if that technically falls under the same lane. But yeah, it feels kind of weird here.
I don't know. I feel like that's a conceit that they've been playing with a lot in recent series, both inside and outside Marvel. You know, it started with, frankly, it almost started with WandaVision in the one of the later episodes where she is talking directly to the camera.
Yeah.
And then from there, I felt like we saw a bit of fourth wall breaking and at least some more gimmicks within the show on Ms. Marvel. So with this coming off right off of that, I don't know. It kind of feels like just something they're doing in this phase.
Yeah. And I think don't quote me on this or don't be, you know, posting the video online where Matt said this, but I don't know how familiar everybody is with the comic She-Hulk, but I want to say, wasn't that like a part of her character?
I think I believe it
breaking
was.
The fourth wall or like referencing the office. She's kind of like Deadpool, but obviously not as extreme as Deadpool.
Right.
Where like, you know, she kind of does that and reference like the reader or the audience.
I want to say so. Yeah.
So like, I think that's part of her humor and style.
Yeah.
I mean, but, I think it's been a mixed bag. I mean, I think there's certain points where the fourth wall like worked and it was kind of funny. So like in the first episode, when she made the first time she did it with Bruce, like that moment where they both kind of looked was funny. And then the very last moment in the second episode when she gets she turns on the news and finds out that he is not where he should be. But then when she's doing it, when she was first walking into the law firm and learning about the job, that part didn't feel like it worked really well. So it's like some of it has worked, some of it hasn't. And I think that's true of even Deadpool too. It's just that Deadpool is far more extreme in what he's doing with it than She-Hulk, where they're just trying to be. I think what's nice about it is it does give me the callbacks to like sort of the comic-y style of Amazing Spider-Man in a sense. And I feel like really more connected to the comic series feel of She-Hulk like you do with Amazing Spider-Man than with Deadpool, where you don't necessarily feel that connection. That's kind of my gut on it.
Yeah. And I will say, give it a few more episodes, because the initially, like that first episode, I was definitely very wary of the fourth wall breaking and the referencing the camera and that stuff. Mm-hmm. But as the episodes go on, it really grows on you, and it really gets better and better.
Does.
And to confirm, yeah, it is part of what they used to do in the comic book.
Well, then I guess it makes more sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say to Matt's statement, we've both seen the first 4 episodes, and it definitely does grow on you. The series as a whole, like it gets, the first episode, I was like, okay, I don't necessarily mind this. I didn't hate it. Like that was a good thing, right? Because I was going into it and I was like, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this. And then I was like, this is actually a really fun, like sitcom, like just kind of fun show of the week. So,
I mean, I came into this at least looking a little forward to it, because frankly, I would watch Tatiana Maslany like watch paint dry. So,
yeah, no, she's amazing as She-Hulk. Like, she nails the character.
Yeah,
she is.
But I'm surprised you haven't mentioned probably what makes this like the best series of all time for you, and the cameo appearance of someone.
Oh, I was
something.
Like, the fact that
something I would say. No, for Emma.
Oh, okay.
She probably hasn't even recognized it. So in the second episode, there's a scene where she's at a bar, and basically she's been fired from her job. And this fancy lawyer guy, I forget what's his name, Holloway, I think his name is.
Something like that.
But he offers her a job. He offers her a job eventually. But first, he offers to buy her a drink.
Oh, yeah.
And major props to the bartender in this episode.
Yeah. Is that what that was?
Because he pulls out, he sees the fact, he's like, oh, this rich, fancy lawyer guy is offering to buy her a drink who just lost her job, so I'm going to pull out the Pappy. And they show a bottle of Pappy. And they're like,
I'm like going back through like IMDb here and being like, wait a minute.
Was there a shark in this episode? Were there aliens in this episode? What's going on?
Shark, aliens.
I caught that. That's the way and I also caught the look on his face where at first he was like, really? And then he was like, all right.
He's like, this is the drink you want him to buy you.
This scene actually really bothered me though, because then he walks out like without paying. So I'm just assuming he has a tab that it went on.
I'm sure, yeah.
I think it kind of established that as like the place where the lawyers hang.
It's one of those things that bothers me. Like when someone leaves a door open, or like, doesn't like is getting something out of the fridge and like doesn't put the cap back on. I don't know. Like these little like things just like really bother me. So that was like
say goodbye on the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, hang-ups. You can't help when a ship blasts off into hyperspace and you lose cell reception. I mean, it happens to the best of us. Just like in She-Hulk.
That is good. What does everybody think is going on in Sakaar? That Bruce has to.
Well, so maybe this is where I'm struggling. Is what's our timeline? It's obviously post blip because you have Smart Hulk.
Well, it's post blip, and I'm assuming it is post. What was it where Bruce and what was the movie? Was it Shang-Chi? Because those are kind of going hand in hand. Because it was the post credits of that, right? Where Bruce and Captain Marvel, they all like appeared as holograms.
Yep.
Right? At the end. And so Bruce was like still in his sling wearing the little armband thing that kept him in human form. So like that was pre She-Hulk episode 1, because then that breaks and then he gets healed. So so I'm guessing we're kind of right in that time frame.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that still doesn't help in regards of why he's flying off to Sakaar.
Nope. But
I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of World War Hulk trending today on Instagram and stuff, and going with that story and stuff. And I also saw a theory where it's like it's going to end up being some kind of like paternity test thing, and he's going to have to get her to represent him in like the court of Sakaar.
That would
like,
be funny.
It goes back where like basically like the whole ship coming back to Earth was to serve Hulk papers.
I mean,
which would actually be pretty hilarious. I think
that'd be pretty awesome.
I would actually give them a lot more credit if they went that route than if it tied to a new movie, frankly. Because
like I still think they can't. I don't think they can still do like solo movies for the Hulk, because I think Universal still has like the rights to a solo Hulk movie.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering is maybe they are, and it's the reason it wasn't announced at San Diego because it is Universal and not Marvel. So the fact that we don't know about it could be because of that, and maybe they are planning to do it. So
maybe,
or
maybe they got the rights back, or could be like a Sony Spider-Man kind of thing.
Yeah,
we'll see. Who knows where it'll lead?
Well, I'm going to bring in something that I want to see if you guys picked up on. If you've been on Twitter today, you probably picked up on it.
Ooh. Is this a She-Hulk thing?
This is a She-Hulk thing. And just like last time, now it's like I want to share a photo, and it's not going to let me.
You could make it your background.
I know, I should make it my background.
That would be hilarious.
Hold
Is it the wrong format because of your fancy Apple devices?
No, it's because this thing doesn't.
It's because of Apple.
I gotta make it a PDF.
Apple's not our sponsor, so we can talk all we want about them.
Yes, we can.
We can.
In fact, we have no sponsors yet. So if you would like to sponsor this show,
reach out to any of us.
We are currently looking for sponsors.
We are open and we are cheap.
Just like Westeros. Wait.
I've said that about myself so many times.
All right, I've converted this into a PDF.
It's after 9:00. It's okay.
See if this works.
Dragon After Dark is 10 p.m., Robert.
Add to stream.
Here we go.
Yet. Iron Man's 3.
I did see this.
So
yes.
This is just a very brief moment in the last episode. Obviously, a call to Wolverine, and we've all been kind of expecting Wolverine to show up and to see a bigger X-Men tie-in to everything now that Disney owns 20th Century Fox and thus owns X-Men now as well. And we've been getting little hints of that, but we haven't really gotten something Wolverine related until this.
Well, notice the bottom article too that ties into Eternals finally.
Yeah.
True.
Finally somebody references the giant statue that just appeared out of nowhere.
That is a fair question to be raised.
Yeah.
But to be fair, a lot of people really forgot about Eternals.
They did.
It's a very forgettable movie. So
still haven't seen it.
I know it's not going to happen because Hugh Jackman has already said like he's done with Wolverine. But wouldn't it be great to have him as Wolverine in like the next Deadpool movie, just in some shape or form?
I mean, they kind of already did that in the second one,
but like
when they in like the post-credit scene. But yeah, meaningful. I mean, that would be awesome. I fully expect Hugh Jackman will show up in some capacity as Wolverine in like a cameo appearance in in one of the films. Either way, eventually at some point, as maybe they'll do like Old Man Logan again and have him show up.
Or maybe he's cosplaying as Wolverine in the background as just a cameo or something, Yeah.
Yeah. Realistically,
make him the new Stan Lee.
Yep.
And just have him show up in every single movie as Wolverine.
Oh, I would love that.
That
who
would be
do you
amazing.
guys want to see as the next Wolverine?
Oh my god, I don't know.
That's a tough
hard
question.
I hadn't even thought about that.
There's been a lot of discussion.
You'll do it.
I'll do it.
I would like to see that as the next one.
I will jump on the grenade and I will take on the role.
I wonder
Captain
what the
America.
internet has to say about this.
I know
Possible
who was it
future.
like
There was somebody recently that people were trying to
Daniel Radcliffe.
I know. Yeah, I was about to
that's
say,
what I'm
I know a
saying.
lot of people
Daniel
said Daniel
Radcliffe.
Radcliffe.
No.
And
I
also
can't see that.
Oh no,
Who was it?
this kid that was in hold on, what's his name?
he was in The Kingsman.
Yes. Yep.
He was Elton John
Yep.
Oh,
in
Taron
Rocketman.
Edgerton? Is
Yeah.
that
Yes.
Taron Egerton. Yeah.
Egerton.
I know a lot of people, have called for him. But I don't know. I mean, Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige have been pretty good about like being spot on with their casting and stuff. So
Yeah.
whether they go with somebody big or like go with somebody small and like almost unknown, like I trust that they'll do.
The other person that people have recommended recently is Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I see that.
I can see that.
I feel like he'd be too old.
Yeah, I think you've got to.
I think they're gonna go with a young.
Yeah, because you need to have at least so many
longevity.
films. Yeah.
I mean, to be frank,
just the requirements to be Wolverine and have that body. Like you hear all the stories of how Hugh Jackman dehydrated himself and all the workouts and stuff that he does. Like Wolverine is like peak physical fitness. So like I'm sure the older you get, the harder it is to maintain that look. So
no, absolutely.
I mean,
I with somebody young.
I'd love for them to keep the cast of First Class as far as X-Men goes. Though they never really addressed Wolverine, although he made a brief appearance and told him to go shove it in the bar.
I remember that.
Well, then they also did the whole Days of Future Past film.
Yeah. Yep.
So
like there's opportunities there to bring. I'll be really interested to see how they bring that into Marvel and whether they do anything with any of the existing films and characters and cast, or if they just completely start over.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're probably going to go clean slate. Because, I mean, there was already the end of Miss Marvel that, Miss Marvel is a mutant. And, she had the whole X-Men theme that played briefly over her. So it's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
All of that. So, they're definitely here.
Yeah, no,
I
they're
feel
coming.
like they're definitely, they're going to want to go clean slate and basically
it is kind of fun to like look at just
different Ms. Marvel.
Like a bunch of people want Jason Momoa to play him, which is
to play Wolverine.
Yeah.
I feel like he's too tall. I feel like because like Wolverine in the comics is a short guy. And honestly, they've never really fully embraced the short aspect of Wolverine.
But you know how they can do that.
That would be interesting to see.
With Daniel Radcliffe. Like that's the more I look at pictures of Daniel Radcliffe, I'm like, that's actually not bad casting. Like that would work.
Danny DeVito as Wolverine. No. There we go. That is the perfect casting. Danny DeVito as Wolverine. Boom. You're welcome, Marvel.
On that note.
And by the way, Ethel says she would watch Matt as Wolverine.
Thank you, Ethel. I appreciate the support.
I hadn't switched over the comments yet. Yay!
Tell Marvel.
I didn't realize I didn't have the comments up.
Same.
Now I do. Well, we're glad you're back with us, Ethel. We were talking about how we missed you last week. So, or not last week, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. But let's move on since we've got 3 more shows to talk about. Let's jump into Westworld next.
Westworld,
which I have not watched.
Oh man, Westworld.
So, Westworld just ended their 4th season. You can watch it on HBO or HBO Max, and basically it's based off the film from believe it was like the 80s, where there is a world that the rich people can go to. It's basically a theme park, where the most realistic theme park ever. where robots are made to look and act just like humans, and people can pay outrageous sums of money to go and visit and essentially do whatever they want. And in its fourth season now, basically the whole Westworld has gone and come back, and robots have kind of taken over, and shit has gone down. So, and the fourth season, basically, the whole series has revolved around this whole consciousness about, what is reality, and, are we able to make our own decisions, both as robots and as humans, and like what constitutes life, and all these different, morality and existential questions and stuff like that. It's all really complicated and deep and really interesting stuff. So if you haven't seen the series at all, I highly suggest starting with season 1, watching it all through. It's a really wild trip.
So I had an interesting experience with Westworld where I watched season 2 through 4 in 2.5 days. And
I do not recommend doing that.
Don't watch it like that.
Because
please don't do that.
You will question your own sanity.
Yeah, and but it was interesting for me because there was a lot of people who dropped off in season 3 and a lot of critics who didn't like season 3. And then when 4 came out, everybody was like, "Hey, it's back to greatness." And I could sort of understand where people didn't like season 3, because season 3 sort of left us out of the very heady, deep philosophical questions and brought us into basically the real world and said, here's what's going on in the world. Here's why we have Westworld in the first place. Here's why they're doing what they're doing on the side in Westworld. And what this guy was doing with artificial intelligence. And I could understand that it felt to me, having watched the season so close together, that there was a clear disconnect with the rest of the story for season 3. And I sort of felt that it was like Book of Boba Fett with Mandalorian. It didn't really progress things forward per se, but it gave a lot of context, which is important because that context really reframed. If you were to go back and watch like season 2 or season 1, it really reframed everything, especially as you went into 4 and watched everything kind of come full circle. And there were moments where I sat back and said, this feels like it could be the prequel backstory that the Matrix never talked about, right? Like the machines coming to power, the struggle between humans and machines before, everything sort of fell apart. And man, I wish they would announce a season 5.
Yeah. Well, what I think, like, what 1, 2, and 4 do so well, and what they differentiate from 3, is the whole mystery aspect of it. Because, like, 1 and 2 both take place in Westworld, and 2 kind of expands to other different theme parks that they have, but it's still kind of the same idea. And like, there's the whole idea of there's a maze and there's this overarching game to be played by the humans and stuff. And like, it almost felt like Lost, where like you have this world and there's so many little mysteries about it. And you're going over the episodes looking for these clues about, okay, what's the deeper story here? What's the end game? And so like those early seasons and even the 4th season really kind of delved into that. And I feel like season 3 was more straightforward, more, okay, we're going to give you some of the answers and the politics behind all this. So I feel like that's why it wasn't as well received. And it was good. I still enjoyed season 3, but it felt very different than Westworld.
Yeah, I definitely still enjoyed season 3. I'm a sucker for backstory in complex stories. I'll eat it up, even if it sometimes can feel a little bit slow. I think there were aspects of the things happening in season 3 that hit very differently watching it post election time. That just gives a very different context to a lot of what's going on. But it's one of those shows that you can watch over and over and over again, and you get something a little different out of it each time.
Yeah.
And
especially with how the 4th season ended, because it hasn't been renewed for a 5th season, but the 4th season, the way it ends acts as like a really good, almost soft series finale. So like the way they end it, where it's like, yeah, if we don't get a 4th or a 5th season renewed, then we can end it here, and it still makes sense. It kind of is like, it doesn't really leave on a cliffhanger. Yes, there are still some things that are unanswered and everything, but in a way it makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because they do this whole loop, we've done this before, sort of thing. And the way that it goes back, it's like, it challenges you to actually go back and rewatch season 1 and think of it from the context of
season 4.
Of season 4. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, was this a lost situation and it was all imagined? It was in the brain of an AI that went through this scenario.
That's just
one and then started over. Right. That's simulation 1.
Yeah.
And now we do another one. Because I felt like there's too many.
And Emma and Jen are just there like, okay, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
It's
Jen
so
good.
The
show, so
I haven't watched it. I haven't watched the last 2 seasons of it, so I can't like comment on this in a way that is meaningful.
It's definitely worth watching to catch up. If you haven't started, it is a fun show. It's very heady. So, it's one of those ones that do a few episodes at a time and don't. I did it just to be caught up with the show, but do not watch 3 seasons in 2 days. Just don't. It's a lot.
This is what you can't have on just in the background. And
no, you got to be paying.
You got to be paying attention.
Yeah. But again, it's if you like that type of TV that where you really have to it's very thought provoking, and there's a lot of mystery to it, and watching it multiple times can take you in different directions. Westworld is definitely one of those shows to watch for that type of thing.
And hopefully it'll get renewed for season 5.
Crossing fingers. I mean, the directors, the actors, everybody has said basically
everybody wants it.
Well, they've also said they framed the story up that we have one more story to tell to finish it off. So,
but it's HBO Max, and we all know the shit show that they're going through right now. So,
who knows? A shit show right now over there. I'm sure there's a game plan. I'm just not sure that a lot of it's clear or apparent to a lot of other people watching from the outside.
To the people in charge.
Yeah. Like we were talking about this earlier. It just got announced that Aquaman 2 is being pushed from its March 2023 release date to Christmas 2023. And Shazam 2, which was supposed to come out this Christmas, is now going into the March 17th slot. The good news for that is it means that Shazam will be able to be seen on IMAX, which is, they're billing that as one of the potential reasons. But I just don't know what's going on over there. I mean, everything that happened with Batgirl.
Oh my God, I'm still salty over that.
Yeah,
the cancellation is just like.
I don't understand why you can't at least put it on HBO Max. What is the harm? Even if
because then they can't write it off, because then they're making some kind of profit on it, and he just wants to write off the whole thing.
Yeah, and as someone who works in the corporate world, I'm going to bring that into this today. When a business has a failure or needs a reason to make a loss, it'd be something that they can write off. There's certain things they can and can't do with assets or property related to that division, that segment, that loss that they're writing off. And so to Matt's point, I think very much so that if they're writing something off as a loss, a subsidiary, a division, whatever the reason may be, they literally cannot release the material because it will make them ineligible to write it off per the rules, the IRS rules that are set. So not that makes it right. I mean, we still want to know what was the reason they did it. Why couldn't it have been moved to another division, or what was the purpose? They've renewed things that are very strange. They've allowed certain movies, Flash, to continue to move forward despite all the shit going on around it, but could not release this. It just doesn't make any sense.
No.
If there's any movie they should can at this point, it is The Flash. Like
recast The Flash at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, where's Grant Gustin? Just pull him out.
Exactly.
I said that.
And like The Flash is like the easiest to like get around recasting and stuff because of the whole time travel aspect and all that stuff. And it's like, I saw somebody say like, oh, just blur out his face. Pretend like he's going so fast you can't see his face and just blur out his face. It's like,
but the problem
Flash
there
is one of the easiest to do there.
Yeah, blurring out his face though, he still gets paid for the movie.
I mean, we still get. I think he's already gotten paid.
Probably, but residuals.
We don't.
And
Yeah, we don't know his contract or all this stuff. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
What
Who
I
knows what's
will
going on
say
with Warner Brothers?
On the Warner Brothers note, they just signed their first kind of major deal since the kind of leadership change there. So they're going to do the Batman too. That was officially like announced a couple days ago.
I saw that. Yeah.
Okay. Another one.
Yeah, they signed a thing with Matt Reeves.
Yeah, he's got like a first look deal with Warner, and he's going to be involved
in the shows too.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to be involved with the Penguin series as well. So I'm kind of wondering if like HBO's like kind of going more. I mean, of course, Batman, Ben Affleck Batman is in Aquaman too. So like you've got these kind of.
At the same time, like they also canceled the animated Batman series, like Batman Cape Crusader. They canceled that.
True.
Which like everybody was so excited, and it's like that's Batman. Like, come on, that's DC Comics and Warner Bros. That's bread and butter for them. Like,
so if
why would you cancel that?
So if you could think of Warner Brothers and DC as a meme,
this is fine.
This is them. A dumpster.
It doesn't really show up, Robert.
No, not with you.
Yeah.
Hold on. Wait, hold on.
Put it closer to your face.
Yeah.
There it is.
This is fine.
A dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can't seem to figure out what they want to do with DC. Warner Brothers can't figure out what they want to do when they grow up. They've been adopted. They've adopted a bunch of different companies, and they don't know what they want to do, kind of like my company. But, it's just one of those things that, I don't know. If they don't figure it out soon,
what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they keep pushing stuff, other people are going to take advantage of it, and they're going to put their stuff in those slots. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Well, speaking of HBO, that's the perfect segue into House of Dragon. Or as I've just now tonight learned that it's called Hot D. Because
I'm not going to call it Hot D.
Hot D.
Never calling it that.
So, House of Dragon. So, HBO Max is taking us back to Westeros 172 years before the events of the original series. And it follows House Targaryen during their rule and the beginning of what ends up being the first queen of Westeros. So the series has touted itself as having curbed the gratuitous sexual scenes. And I would venture to say that I don't think the percentage.
Tell us about that Hot D, Robert.
Yeah, no, I think that the percentage of tone down is barely even noticeable, frankly.
I can tell you about it.
Yeah, and you should tell us, because the only thing that for me so far that has made it better than Game of Thrones is we have more dragons, something we all kind of wanted in the original Game of Thrones. I'm not yet sold on the rest of it yet, because it's okay. It's a setup episode. It's just the premiere, granted, but why do we care?
Good point.
Yeah, it's like who was it? That poster on Twitter where it's like it was some celebrity who said like, it still doesn't change the fact that Brian ends up on the throne. They were like, I can't watch the new House of Dragon because it doesn't erase the fact that Brian ends up on the throne.
Yeah. I mean, And the fact that George R.R. Martin has still yet to finish the freaking book.
Shock.
I mean,
Shock.
so like that's why I am honestly
Exactly,
okay with House of Dragon right now, is because I think it's just one book that it's based on.
Mm-hmm.
But like there is a definite beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
There is no unfinished aspect of it. And D&D are not in charge of show running House of Dragon.
Oh.
And because they just completely gave up on Game of Thrones once they ran out of the books to tell the story. So,
but to be fair, there are still plenty of Dungeons and Dragons.
I was
Sorry, had to go there.
That's where all their minds go for D&D.
Yep.
Yes.
But I think that's a great point. Is we have new showrunners, we have a definitive beginning, middle, and end to work from, which are two things that hopefully are going to work in the favor of House of the Dragon for the future episodes, because they're not going to be able to take the liberties that they did with the later seasons of Game of Thrones, and hopefully they learn their lesson from that too. There was some other spin-offs that were supposed to happen as well that ended up getting canceled, which is kind of disappointing. But I wonder if they can reconsider those.
I think stuff is still coming.
I think I think there's still more coming. You're right though. Some did get canned. But I don't remember specifically which ones did.
Yeah, I wonder if they might change their mind now, considering the success. I mean, it's just one episode, right? So yes, the premiere is going to be huge because it's been a while since Game of Thrones came out.
Yeah.
But the question is, and this is always true of any big TV show premiere, how much of that audience sticks through episodes 2 and 3? We saw it with Walking Dead. We saw it with Falling Skies. I'm going way back here for people, 10 years. But with any season premiere, you have a really large audience at the start. And then you really tell how well the series is going to perform by how much your drop-off is as you go into the later episodes. So that'll be the real tell here. As to how successful this truly ends up being. It is Game of Thrones. It is high fantasy. And there's not a lot of that out right now yet, which we'll talk about later.
Just wait until Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Amazon versus HBO.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. And frankly, I mean, you've got beloved readers of the books in both parts, although Lord of the Rings, I think, has a much longer, richer history in the source material that it has to sort of adhere to, which is kind of at its own disadvantage. Game of Thrones, not as much. I didn't hate the first episode. I thought it was good.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it, and I would say nothing was toned down. So it's still very much Game of Thrones. So, Jen, what are your
Jen has a lot
thoughts?
Jen has a lot of thoughts.
Because you have thoughts.
I have thoughts. I'll try to keep it brief because it's a subject I could TED talk about, to be perfectly honest. I'll admit I've never watched Game of Thrones, and I'm not going to watch House of Dragons. I do have that's right, Ethel. Non-con in media is not something I roll with. So also kind of leaves out a bit of Westworld for me, I'm afraid. But this, for House of Dragons in particular, I'm a little extra unhappy because of the interviews that we've been referencing already, saying that they're toning back, rolling back on the gratuitous nudity, the gratuitous sex in the show. Except, according to one of the showrunners, they're going to dial back on the consensual stuff, but they're going to keep all of the non-con to be in line with the history of the period, which maybe I missed that chapter of AP European history, where we had dragons. It seems going the wrong direction, frankly. So, and
you're not wrong.
I'll be good because I literally could talk about this for like another hour and just soapbox about it. So I'm not going to do that much more. Yeah, so House of Dragons is not exactly going to be on my watch list. Also, I'll admit I read the first book and I kind of hated it. So
all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea.
It is
fair point.
I will say, as far as the first episode of House of Dragon, I didn't hate it. I feel very meh about it. It is very much, it's like watching an earlier Game of Thrones episode. It's very much in line with how that feels. And Jen, you have great points with all of that. One thing that always really bothered me about Game of Thrones is if you don't have to have something in it to tell a piece of a storyline, then like what purpose is it actually serving beyond like shock and awe, right? Like it's the same thing as like clickbait or something, like when you're like scrolling through your phone looking for stuff to like, watch or spend your time on.
Yeah.
And then you click bait into something and then you're mad that like you got like fooled and clicked on this thing. Anyways, I digress. I will say what came off as particularly like weird to me was watching Matt Smith in this role. Because he is so not this person. And watching him play this type of character is just it's so weird.
I still stand by this comment where Matt Smith is always playing a cosplay of Matt Smith, where it's like Matt Smith cosplaying as some character.
Right.
Because I cannot see Matt Smith acting in anything, like whether it was Morbius or Doctor Who, like it's always like, oh my God, that's Matt Smith.
Right.
And like he just has such a unique and interesting look about them that it's like it's really hard to disguise that. So like even in Game of Thrones, even as a Targaryen, it's still like that's Matt Smith playing this Targaryen dragon rider.
Playing as this Targaryen.
I mean, power to him though. He was definitely like my favorite Collins.
Yeah,
fair
and
enough.
It's
so hard to not see Matt Smith.
Yeah. I mean, he plays a very violent character on House of Dragons, the brother of the king. I will say one thing in the defense of House of Dragons. It's just a small thing. His armor
is awesome.
His armor is really good. One thing I'll say in defense of House of Dragons is there's a scene where the hand of the king's daughter is sent to the king's bedchambers after his wife and child, again, spoilers, but wife and child die in childbirth. And we all assume we know where this is going, because if this were Game of Thrones under the previous showrunners, that's exactly where that would have gone. And it didn't. It never went there. And she ended up just reading a book. So, small progress, but progress, perhaps. I don't know that the rest of the season is going to be that way. One episode, of course, does not tell the whole thing. But, it remains to be seen. Yeah. But I agree with Emma. Overall, it's meh so far. For the re-entry into Westeros.
It's still better than the last few seasons of Game of Thrones.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Not wrong. And I do want to make sure we all know it is House of Dragon, not House of Dragons.
There's more than one
House
dragon.
Of the. There's a the in there.
There is.
Yeah.
It's the hot D.
Remember, hot D.
Hot D. Just hot D. Forget. Hot D works for dragon or dragons.
I love it.
Everybody gets the hot D.
Yep.
Well, we've saved the best for last.
Yeah, we have
the Sandman. So I'm gonna throw it to Jen.
Okay. So for those of you who are somehow not familiar with this, despite the cultural zeitgeist behind it, Sandman is currently airing on Netflix, and it is based on the Neil Gaiman comics, graphic novels rather, that have been under the DC imprint for time immemorial, since I was 7. So yeah. And it basically revolves around the premise that Dream, the literal Morpheus, the Sandman, is captured for 100 years by humans, and how that affects not only humanity as a whole, but the Sandman himself, and how he sees humanity, how he views humanity, and how that changes him. The series covers a couple of different stories within the Sandman anthology. up to and including 2 stories in one episode, House of a Thousand Cats and Calliope, which were both dropped after the rest of the series in a surprise episode 11. And frankly, I have absolutely adored this show. So,
Same here.
Reaching back actually to something I was just, again, Ted talking about, in that episode 11, there actually is non-con, but it's done so well that if you didn't already know the story, you may not realize that it happened. And frankly, I think that's the way to do it. So if that has to be part of your story, that's one of the ways to make it happen. I mean, it's so subtle. And you only understand that that's what happened, again, if you had read the book, or if you paid a lot of attention to the hints they were dropping. So yeah. What did we all think?
I've loved it.
I
love the series so far. I've not read any of the source materials. So I did a little bit of Wikipedia searching and online searching as I was watching the series and after, to sort of get some of the background and context on more than a couple of things. I felt like casting wise, Desire was by far one of the best cast characters for the season.
Everyone.
I mean, none of them were bad at all.
Everyone's been cast amazingly, frankly.
And what I thought was also
for me,
interesting.
oh my god, the death episode just destroyed me. Episode 6.
Yeah.
If anybody's watched it already, like Jesus, like the way they approach death, because like, so I knew nothing. Like I'd heard of Sandman and stuff before, but like I really knew nothing about it. And like even just like hearing about it, like it's still like I didn't really have a clear idea. Even watching the trailers, I didn't really have a clear idea of like what this was about. But like the first episode just hooks you. And like, you know, it deals with these like abstract concepts like dreams and death and desire and all these things. Despair, yeah. And like, but it does so in a way like the death episode is just so brutal and like heartbreaking, and it's like, oh my god, and it's just so good.
It's one of those shows that just leave you like thinking about a gazillion different things. Like, and it's kind of hard to find a good show that challenges the viewer that way in today's current television selection. I loved it. I mean, this series has been coming for so long. I'm trying to like go back to when we first heard. I want to say it was like 2013.
There was a movie. There was supposed to be a movie, and I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt was supposed to be in it.
Yeah, he was supposed to be Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I mean they started trying to adapt even the movie in '91. Okay, I mean this has been in the works.
Yeah,
for
a while.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, honestly, I feel like the wait was worth it. I mean, this is been dead on. It's been absolutely beautiful. I've loved all the characters. Even seeing Arthur Darvill in there, who again I only ever see as a time traveler, frankly, whether from Doctor Who or from Legends of Tomorrow. I mean, I believed him as the bad guy that he ended up being. So I mean, everyone is just so wonderfully cast. And
there's a Raven named Matthew, so of course
there is
that Raven
who's played by Patton Oswalt.
I know.
So it's like I'm already in love.
It's the baby Yoda of Sandman.
He is the best.
So, what did everybody think of Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer Morningstar?
I loved Gwendolyn Christie.
I thought it was awesome. I want more. I want like a spin-off of Hell and.
You mean Lucifer?
Well, like of Hell and Lucifer, with her. With her.
Because that's the same. It is the same character that Tom Ellis played,
but not the same actor.
Not the same actor, but I'm saying, I mean, it's the same universe. It is the Tom Ellis character from the TV show, just played by someone entirely different.
Well, interesting. I didn't realize they were in the actual same universe. So
same universe. That is the actual like DC version of Lucifer. So they actually for a while they were in talks to have Tom Ellis play the role. So
or like have a Joanna Constantine spinoff.
Finally pronounced correctly.
Yes.
Like,
I
yes.
felt like her role was a little underplayed. And I think it's intentional because she wasn't meant
Well, I
to
think
be the main
yeah.
story
No, but I'd like to see
in
more
this.
of her.
I would.
Yeah.
You know what was also interesting, and I assume it was in the source material, but the sleepy sickness that happened as a result of Morpheus being imprisoned was actually based on real life events, a sickness that happened back in the 1800s that was linked back, they believe, to Spanish flu or a related virus at the time from people that had long lingering effects from the Spanish flu. And there's a whole big story about how it affected people by either making them have extreme wakefulness where they could not sleep at all, or extreme sleepiness where they could not wake at all. So real interesting historical pieces to that they brought details into the story to sort of add to that element.
Huh. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Fun fact. The more you know.
I don't know. I wouldn't really call that fun. More disturbing. But
Disturbing fact.
a fact.
I mean,
nonetheless.
I think if there's any show that you should watch now that you haven't already watched, Sandman is the one to watch. And we were talking earlier about whether or not that would be renewed for a second season. Netflix has not announced it yet. It is likely. I say likely. My theory is that they're going to hold that to their To Dumb event, which we were just talking about this before we went live. I don't know if they've announced the dates for it or not yet, but that's usually when they drop their trailers, their big news.
Yeah. It's like that or Geek Week that they do.
Well, that one was earlier in the year, right?
Yeah, they already did Geek Week, yeah.
To them, Netflix it's coming back on September 24th.
Yep.
So
I was just looking I was just Googling that myself. So it's right around the corner, but my guess is most of their renewal announcements are being saved for that, especially for their big tentpole items.
Yeah. I could see them renewing Sandman then.
I really hope
making the announcement.
Yeah.
I also bet they'll probably announce a release date for Bridgerton, the next season of Bridgerton, because I know that's in production.
When are you getting the new season of British Bake Off?
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping they would announce
more wholesomeness in our lives.
I need that wholesomeness in my life. I need some inspiration to do some more baking. Yeah.
Me personally, I want them to announce when they're going to do season 5 of Stranger Things, but I know they will not have that date by that time.
No, they just started writing it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so annoying.
It's going to be a while.
It's going to be a minute. I don't think we're realistically going to get the next season of Stranger Things until like early 2024.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but
yeah, probably.
I think it would be tight because they haven't. I don't know what
they're writing it.
Well, they're writing it, but we also don't know what the cast, like their filming schedules are with their other projects. Millie has got like a gazillion things lined up. She's doing the next Russo brothers film, which is supposed to be shooting in Atlanta this fall, and it's another $200 million project because Netflix and the Russo brothers. It's a good working relationship between those parties.
Date for The Witcher 3.
The Witcher 3. There's a bunch of good stuff to come.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of things to come, do we want to approach what's upcoming now?
Yeah, let's talk about
Lord of the
it.
Rings. Rings of Power.
Lord of the Rings of Power.
I'm most excited.
Rings of Power. That is coming out. Do we know that? I know the Andor.
September 2nd.
Second?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's soon.
Friday.
Right around the Dragon Con.
That's next Friday.
It is.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right during Dragon Con.
Exactly.
I'll have to watch it like
I've
Saturday.
still been like, because Amazon has usually been good about sending us updates on like screeners and stuff. So like I am looking at my emails. So I've been like, okay, Amazon, when are you going to add Lord of the Rings? And like every day that goes by, it like dwindles to be like, oh my God.
Yeah. That one is got, I mean, I've not read this, and I'm going to mispronounce this, so don't shoot me. The
Silmarillion?
Silmarillion.
Yeah. I've not read that. So I don't have any context to the source material. I've been told that, Jen, by many people who are big fans.
I love Lord of the Rings. You don't have to read the Silmarillion.
Yeah. I've also been told that because it's more of like an encyclopedia of the world and less of a story, that Amazon might have a little bit more leniency in some of the liberties that they take.
Yeah. I mean, it's somewhere between the encyclopedia of the world and the Bible of the world. I mean, there's a chapter about so-and-so begat so-and-so. Okay, it just... I read it because I had a crush on a dude who liked it. Okay, that was the last time I read a book because I had a crush on a dude. Never again.
Oh, that's good.
And high fantasy is not the only thing that's coming out in September that has us excited. There's another one that is a lead up and very much feels like one of probably all of our favorites films of the Star Wars franchise in the last few years. Andor. So Andor's coming.
I'm so stupid excited.
And they're bringing Rogue One back to theaters too. So if you haven't seen it in theaters, it's worth seeing. In IMAX. Yep. I love where they're going with Andor. The one thing I like about Mandalorian 2 is it separates itself from the core story and characters that we followed for over 9 films, and it does its own thing. Because the reality is the Star Wars universe is endlessly huge. There's so much that we could be talking about and doing in that world and still have it be Star Wars. And that's Andor. And it seems like it's got all of that and everything we loved about Rogue One. And of course, it's the character that's in Rogue One as well. And so it's kind of the lead up to that and the true start of the Resistance. So they're dropping.
And Mando's going to show up somewhere. Just like the Book of Boba Fett.
Rebellion.
Yeah.
That's the ongoing joke where it's like, oh, in Obi-Wan, like, when is Mando going to show up?
And it's like,
so now I expect Mando to show up and overtake the series for every single Star Wars series.
Baby Yoda toddles through the background.
Exactly.
Of Scarif. It's really weird.
Luke's going to show up and be like, I'll take those plans. Boop.
Well, they're dropping 2 episodes on the 21st, I believe.
I thought it was 3.
3 episodes. I know it was a lot in one drop, and then they're doing weekly drops after that. But they're giving us a nice movie-style launch to the series. So that's stupid excited for that.
That should be good.
And what else is coming out on TV besides those 2?
There's still more episodes of What We Do in the Shadows for the season that are coming.
She-Hulk.
We've got a lot of things that are coming up that we don't have actual release dates for yet. The second season of Wheel of Time. I don't think we have a release date for Our Flag Means Death yet, but that's coming as well.
Yep.
I'm really excited to see that. I loved that show. So Ahsoka will be coming out in the next year.
Ahsoka.
Which should actually, it may have tie-ins to Andor, if for no other reason than because we know Andor is Fulcrum. So as Ahsoka, which for some people is a pretty deep dive into Star Wars lore. But Fulcrum, for those who are not terribly familiar with the animated series and everything, is kind of the spy master essentially for the rebellion. And we know that Ahsoka has been the spy master. We know that Andor was a Fulcrum, and Callus, who, if you don't know who Ahsoka is, you don't know who Callus is, so it doesn't matter. But it's a title that's been transferred to many people, and so we know that Andor was Fulcrum at some point. I don't know if we'll be seeing him become Fulcrum, which I think would be amazing. But we also know that in Ahsoka, we'll be seeing characters from Rebels come back. We had in Rogue One, we had cameos from those same characters. So
Nice.
Yeah, I'll nerd about it.
Hey, my
And
online.
this, folks, is Nerd Herd Live.
This is. My online handle is Camino with a K, which, if you remember, deep in Star Wars, those are the cloners. So, although I can't say that I know enough Star Wars lore to even challenge Jen remotely, so, but I might come in second place amongst this group. So,
probably.
Ask Disney questions. I dare you.
Yeah, I will concede that one now because you will know more than I will. But yeah, lots of good stuff. So next week we've got Dragon Con.
Yeah, we do.
Woo!
First time since 2019 for us.
For us.
For us, it did take place last year, but we did not go.
I tagged in virtually, but I was not physically present.
Yeah, so. We will all be physically present this year, so we'll all be
in our cosplays.
In our cosplays, so stay tuned to our respective sites and social media to see that unfold. It'll be entertaining for sure. And then we'll be back for our next Nerd Herd Live the following Thursday, which is, I should have memorized it, the 8th.
September the 8th.
September the 8th. And we will share our cosplays with you, our favorite moments. Some of us have potential interviews lined up. I don't know if those will happen or not. So if they do, we will share them, fingers crossed. And just all of the cool things that we see and hear and do this year at Dragon Con. We will bring that to you guys in our next episode.
And if you see us at Dragon Con, stop by and say hi.
Stop by and say hi. We would love to meet you.
Yeah.
If you can find us in 60,000 people.
If you can find us.
You
never know.
Come find us. Mention Nerd Herd Live. I'm going to have some of these with me. And if you mention Nerd Herd Live, you're going to get one of these. So definitely find us. And each of us are going to give our social channels here so that you can follow us.
I have stickers. I can give stickers.
I have nothing.
I was like looking for stuff that
I have hugs.
Files.
Hugs. A lot of people will be asking for hugs. I think some will be fist bumps.
Yeah,
but
we'll do fist bumps.
Fist bumps.
Yep.
Wakanda forever.
Yep.
Elbow bumps. Elbow,
yep.
All right. Well, on that note, let's close out for the night. I will throw it to Matt to tell you where to find him online, and we'll just go around the group.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at I'm Matt Rodriguez and on Instagram at Matthew M. Rodriguez. Jen?
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Renlark, RENNLARK. Robert?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Robert W. Prentice. You can also find 3F by Space on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well.
And thank you, Ethel, for the swag call out. On that note, I've got some cool contests coming up on Fanbolt for Bros is I think the next one that we're going to be doing some swag giveaways for. And I am also going to be hosting an influencer screening for Bros. I think it's September 12th. It's the second week of September. So stay tuned to my socials and to Instagram and Facebook and stuff for that. And whoever wants to come, just DM me, say Nerd Herd Live, and I'll make sure that you get in. So little secret way to do it there. But
it's the benefit of being a fan of Nerd Herd Live.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Get in on the ground floor.
You get in early, you get the exclusive stuff.
Special access. But thank you guys
you
for
get that hot D. Boom.
Thank you guys for watching. You can find me at Emma Loggins at Fanbolt on all social medias, with the exception of TikTok, like I say every week.
It's not there. It's fine.
Fanbolt.com. Until next time, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. See you at Dragon Con.